Winter during World War II, well, it was not just an inconvenience. It was a threat that killed quietly and relentlessly, you know. Across Europe and parts of Asia, families faced winters without coal, electricity, reliable food, or even intact homes. Bombing destroyed infrastructure, occupying forces seized fuel, and ration systems just collapsed under pressure. Children froze in apartments with shattered windows. Elderly people, they died not from illness, but from cold nights that never warmed. Survival through these winters depended on knowledge passed between neighbours, learned through failure and enforced by discipline rather than comfort. Why? Families learned quickly that heating the body mattered more than heating the house. Most households abandoned the idea of warming entire living spaces. Fuel was just too scarce, and heat escaped too easily. Families instead focused on conserving body heat through layered clothing worn indoors, even while sleeping. Multiple thin layers, you see, trapped air better than single heavy garments. Modern households can still apply this by prioritizing personal insulation during outages rather than trying to heat unused rooms. How room consolidation became a winter survival strategy. Families closed off all but one room, often choosing an interior space with the fewest windows. Everyone slept, cooked, and lived in that room. Smaller spaces retained warmth longer and were simply easier to manage. Today, isolating a single living area during winter emergencies follows the same logic and, you know, dramatically reduces heat loss. Why floor insulation saved more lives than extra blankets? Cold rose from stone, concrete, and dirt floors. Families layered newspapers, cardboard, rugs, straw, or clothing beneath beds and seating areas. Insulating from below prevented constant heat loss. Modern equivalents include using mattresses, folded blankets, or even spare clothing to block cold floors during power failures. So, draft control actually replaced fuel as the primary heating tool, you know. Broken windows and those ill-fitting doors, well, they just leaked heat endlessly. Families would seal up the gaps using whatever they had. Cloth bits of paper, even furniture placement. Curtains were layered and doors were blocked at the bottom, all to keep the warmth in. This principle, believe it or not, remains one of the most effective heating strategies today, and it requires no energy at all. Now, why did food choice become a winter survival decision? Well, high-calorie foods were prioritized over variety, that's for sure. Fat, grains and root vegetables, they sustained body heat far better than those light meals. Families would time their meals carefully, eating just before sleep to generate internal warmth through the night. You know, modern emergency planning actually benefits from that same understanding of calorie density and timing. It's remarkable how lessons from the past still shape how we prepare for tough situations today. Now, let's talk about how shared sleeping arrangements helped conserve heat. Families would sleep together, often in the same bed or with bedding placed close together. Sharing body heat wasn't just a matter of comfort, it was done quite deliberately. And really, it wasn't about sentimentality at all, but rather pure survival logic. In emergencies, shared sleeping can make all the difference. It reduces heat loss and, well, it actually improves endurance when conditions get tough. You know, moisture control was absolutely vital in preventing fatal cold stress. Wet clothing, well, it just destroyed any chance of staying warm. Families had to dry their garments near their bodies, rotate clothing as much as possible, and make sure not to sweat indoors. Shoes and socks, they were aired out constantly, really, to keep everyone safe from the cold. These days, keeping your clothing dry during winter outages is just as critical as having any sort of heat source, honestly. Improvised window management played a big role in reducing exposure. People covered their windows with layered fabric, wood, or even bits of furniture. Some families went so far as to build temporary inner walls just to trap air and keep the cold at bay. These days, folks use things like plastic sheeting, heavy curtains, or even improvised insulation to block out radiant heat loss. It's interesting how the methods have changed, but the goal remains the same, you know? Now, why did routine and discipline matter just as much as insulation? Well, families kept to strict routines to manage both their energy and warmth. Every movement was deliberate, carefully planned to avoid sweating, which could chill you later. Rest periods were scheduled, not just taken whenever. And children, well, they were kept calm and still during those cold nights, so they wouldn't lose precious warmth. This sort of discipline, you see, conserved both calories and heat, a lesson that's still important in prolonged emergencies, even today. You know, community cooperation really did increase the odds of surviving those harsh winters. Families would share their knowledge, their tools, and, well, sometimes even their living space. Lone households, they struggled much more than those who chose to work together. These days, modern preparedness often overlooks this simple but powerful truth. Survival, you know, really improves when knowledge and resources are shared rather than isolated. What these World War II winter survival methods still teach us today is quite remarkable. These families survived not because they were tougher, but because they adapted quickly and accepted discomfort early to avoid catastrophe later. Their methods were quiet, disciplined, and rooted in understanding how cold works on the human body. These lessons remain effective because, well, the physics of heat and the limits of human endurance have not changed. If this guide helped you understand how ordinary families survived extraordinary winters during World War II, subscribe to the channel for more historically grounded survival knowledge drawn from the home front, not Hollywood. Share this video with fellow history enthusiasts and preparedness-minded viewers. These lessons were learned the hard way, and they are still worth remembering today.